The story of Gog and Magog involves a primal force. She is the Greek goddess of chaos, Eris Discordia 555. Among her children there is her son, Orcus, god of oaths, and her daughter is Dysnomia, which means lawlessness. Planet Eris is on the perimeter of our solar system, and Dysnomia is her dwarf moon. She is larger than Pluto, which is now a dwarf planet. She starts the Trojan Wars when she tosses the golden apple Callisti to the most beauteous among the goddesses, such as Aphrodite, when she is not invited to a party. Eris doesn't like to be snubbed. Paris the mortal is summoned to settle the dispute over who is the most beautiful, and awards the apple to Helen, which angers Aphrodite and a number of the other goddesses, and this sparks the Trojan Wars. Helen is a mortal Greek woman and is taken back to Troy, also known as Ilium, as in the Iliad, by the Trojans. According to some, Diocletian has set adrift Elba and her 33 wicked sisters who have stabbed their husbands to the mystical isles of the north. There they are wrecked, and the horrid women couple with local giants and monsters, producing even more. Ages pass and the isle is called Albion after Elba and her monstrous sisters. Two of Elba's monstrous offspring were the twin giants Gog and Magog, and they roamed the land of Albion, England. Meanwhile, in sacked Troy ounce for the measure of gold, and the early defrauding scheme which involved metal merchants, arms dealers and doctors, Brutus the Trojan leaves the ruins of Troy, former Ilium, and travels across Europe, stopping at Tours, France, and going to Albion, England. Here he subdues and geases the twin giants Gog and Magog into guarding the north and south entrances of the Grand Guildhall of the Freemasons in London. Each year they are paraded by Londoners and figured as two odd giant one-eyed mobile phone mascots of Wendell and Mandeville in the London Olympics as part of wider occult activities by the English royal family. Gog is a secret fraternity name at Yale's Skull and Bones for George W. Bush. Magog, or the Land of Gog, is a secret fraternity name at Yale's Skull and Bones for George H. W. Bush, George W.'s father. Hyperreality and the Matrix. Everyone has seen the Matrix, yet not everyone sees the most important part. You know how they are shuffling popcorn and mobile phones. Often they miss a tiny piece of plot that is most important, that the people living in the virtual world of the Earth's future are actually humans kept in vats and tapped like electrical batteries by an alien jellyfish-like race who are trapped in a nuclear winter of the real Earth, the realities of which the human virtual prison protects them from. Then observe the people after the movie in front of the cinema. People will be babbling about the parts they actually did see. Red pill versus blue pill. Reality versus virtual reality. People jump about outside the cinema and act in an affected manner. This can be put down to the shock of revelation and can be equated to what has been called shell shock in the First World War, battle fatigue in the Second World War, post-traumatic stress disorder in the Vietnam War, and presently psychogenic conversion in psychology. It has disconcerting effects upon the individual and leaves them disorientated at the time and open to manipulation. Considering this is the premise of the movie The Matrix, what would happen if you could easily prove to people that not only is reality fake, but is a series of successive representations of a past reality that we now no longer have any idea of? This, to say the least, has a shocking effect that leaves the victim in a state of mental and spiritual disarray for a period, open to be taken advantage of, and sometimes highly suggestible. Perhaps the easiest way to explain this technique, whose philosophy is inferred in the fictional movie The Matrix, known as hyperreality, are through a series of black and white mosaic tiles used by the Freemasons and the earlier Greeks, not unlike the game of chess that was a training method amongst Templar Knights. The black and white checker pattern is important to Freemasons and can be found covering the floors of their lodges as well as installed in mosaic windows. Freemasons claim to move along alternate squares as the rest of the pieces in the cosmic chessboard game. The checker was used also as a credit chit codex that was matched up by pilgrims when they cashed their chits when they reached the Holy Levant. Pilgrims paid their silver to Templar institutions in England and Western Europe and received a much more portable and secure document whose edges were checkered black and white. The black and white code boxes would be lined up with the codex in Jerusalem to ensure the pilgrim bearing the credit checks were not fraudulent. The pilgrims then received their cash in the Holy Land, avoiding robbery en route. Not only was this an efficient method of transporting credit and silver, but also formed the first banking systems between the Orient and Western Europe. The Knights Templar also ran a protection racket from Western Europe to the Levant by guarding pilgrim routes with heavily armoured knights on horseback and interlinking castles.